Coming up on this final show before the start of preseason, before we take a look at the AFC South, we preview the Saints opener in the desert against the Arizona Cardinals and ask, does it matter? Who will play? How vanilla will the offense be? And the most important question, can Trevor Penning block anyone? Also, as we said, we continue our 8-part series on previewing and predicting each division in the NFL. Today, it's part 4. We'll wrap up the AFC in a similar fashion. We'll wrap up the NFC in 4 weeks with the mediocre South. Will there be any big surprises like there were last year? Who you got? Texans? Colts? Jaguars? No one has the Titans, so does that mean that this year's Texans? Come on, man. Give me a break. Time to bring in our Friday friend, Larry Holder, the Athletic. And it's all coming up next on the Dattitude podcast.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who have already put their neck braces next to the coffee table. On that coffee table next to the lazy boy. You know, you got to have it within reach so you keep yourself from shaking your head. You can do that for a preseason game. You're not going to shake your head out of control for preseason. It's just preseason. Ain't nobody got time for that yet. We do have plenty of time, however, for Dattitude, episode number 264, presented by Evangel & Securities for a Friday, August the 8th, 2024. We are already in regular season mode. That's who we are. I am your starting quarterback for the day, Jim Derry, and you are all my Trevor Pennings. You can see how y'all are protecting me well. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe you're my Landon Young or Ali Udo or never mind. Let's just have a great time, a great morning together, all right? How's that? We can do that. Whether you're watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or listening on demand to the podcast, as always, I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. You know how you can be a part of this show every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday, live at 11 a.m. You can't be as much a part of it on demand, although you can. You can find me on X at Jim Derry Jr., or you can write me at jderry@theadvocate.com. But if you're watching live, you can type in your comment on YouTube. You can type it in on Facebook. Not so much on X. I won't see it till later. And we ask if you haven't already done so. I know so many of you done so. We thank you. We're growing. Our YouTube page is growing every day. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube page. You can just search for Dattitude. It's technically at Dattitude Pod, but you can find it fairly easily. We will always let you know when we're going the live and have access to our shorts, our short takes that we do. Plenty of them. We do about 2 a day, our shorts. Most of them are just cutouts from the show, like the highlights from the show, but not always. We have all kinds of stuff we talk about. What is going on this morning? You are already typing into the comment stream. 8-Town was here first. Good morning. Gabe's back there too. Let's go. We are going to go. Saints football Saturday. It is indeed, Jerry. What's up, Rock? Glad to see you. Anybody else want to say hello? Feel free to do so. Tell Larry hello in a minute. He's not in the green room yet, but he will be here. Just a moment. We got some updates coming up. We're going to talk about who we think is going to play. Does it matter? Again. The number one thing I think we're going to find out this weekend is maybe who has the leg up on the number 2 quarterback. Does it matter to you? I don't know that it matters to me. I know a lot of you think that it matters to me. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I guess in the grand schemes of things, I want to be right, but I'd rather it be right for this football team than me be right. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you're new to the show, you're like, what is this moron talking about? Well, I think Jake Haener is the right move. I don't think Spencer Rattler is ever going to be an NFL quarterback. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're both NFL quarterbacks. We'll see. Justin Simmons. The update on the talk of the safety coming into town on Wednesday night. We never really got to talk about it. I think we talked that he was coming in for an interview. It was all the rave. By the way, it's all the rave, not all the rage, just in case. Just one of my pet peeves. So I'll throw that out there. All the rave. I mean, I don't get it. If they have money to sign Justin Simmons, then they have money to go get what they really need, and that's another offensive lineman, specifically a tackle. Am I nuts? Am I just crazy in thinking that? I always have hurricane season on standby, but I don't want to play it too much because I don't want to violate copyright laws infringement. Okay? But I do play it every now and then, even though I'm probably not supposed to. Gabe Henderson's pet peeve. I have other ones, by the way. My number one pet peeve, and then I'm getting off on a tangent. We got a lot to talk about this morning. My number one pet peeve is not to mention. You will never hear me say not to mention except to tell you that I hate not to mention. Because by definition, if you're saying not to mention, you're mentioning it as you say it right then. There are other ones. Super Bowl is 2 words. Other little things. Rocky, very good pointer. That means they have money to get Kamara's drama over. No drama if nobody. You see, Kamara's playing this the wrong way. Kamara's playing this the wrong way. A-Town hopes Evangeline Securities can make him money for a trip to Bora Bora. A-Town, if you want to sell your business, my friend, we'll get to Nick Braden and Ron Hino. You're jumping the gun. You're the eager beaver of the moment. You can't even wait to get to Evangeline Securities. That's how excited you are. That's coming up. But Gabe says his is for all intensive purposes. You mean intensive purposes, correct. I don't know that I've heard that. Whatever. We're going off the rails. We're going off the crazy train, as Ozzy Osbourne would say. Justin Simmons, a 30-year-old safety who, yes, is a 4-time Pro Bowler. How much money does this dude want? He was supposed to make $16 million. He kind of had a contract that was in the land of what Kamara's will be next year. In other words, they knew last year they weren't keeping Justin Simmons. Why they didn't try to trade him, I have no idea. Maybe they thought, maybe Sean Payton and his ego-ness thought they were going somewhere last year, and they decided not to trade him before the deadline. Somebody could have used Justin Simmons. Whatever the case may be, you know he's asking for probably bare minimum $8 million. That's what you're going to use. That's like going to the candy store with $20 and buying, I don't know, some little piece of Godiva chocolate instead of buying like 12 candy bars. Doesn't make any sense. What do you need? You know what? It's better yet. Paying $20 for a Godiva candy bar or paying $20 for bread, bologna, some cheese, maybe eggs. That's more what it's like. You have more important pressing needs. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Again, divisional preview coming up in a little bit. We wrap up the AFC. Hard to believe we're about to finish the AFC with the South. Again, my mind, the mirror image of the NFC South. Very mediocre. Spoiler alert. I doubt any team in this AFC South will win more than 10 games. Gabe doesn't like me saying that. It wouldn't surprise me if the favorite, not giving any spoiler alerts, you don't know who I'm going to pick. Wouldn't surprise me if the favorite has to fight until all the way into week 18. Look, I don't know. All right. A-Town was talking about it before. Larry's in the green room. So before we get to Mr. Holder and expand on the Saints and the AFC South, give me a second to tell you how our friends at Evangeline Securities, that's right, they could send you to Bora Bora, wherever the hell else you want to go. You just got to talk to them. They can help you figure out the rest of your life. If you own a family-run or privately held business, there's a good chance you have thought about what your world might be like if you sold your business and moved on from that day-to-day grind. Don't want to get up at 5 a.m. anymore and go make the donuts? Then don't. Evangelin's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemo, can help arm you with the information you need to decide if that's possible. If it is, they can take you to the next step. That's not to mention, just kidding. First and foremost, they will maximize the value for the business by scheduling a complimentary valuation. You might not even have a clue on how much your business is worth. And you can rest assured Nick and Ron care because they came home after gaining invaluable experience in the New York City financial world to help people at home who need them. And they opened offices. Where'd that come from? Offices on Poydras Street and in Lafayette. We will tell you more in the second half of the show, right before our predictions. But in the meantime, you can check them out. Check out our friends at www.evangelinsecurities.com. Here he is, the one, the only, the man who's trying his very best to make the money in the Don Z Rainey League. Whether it'll be successful, I don't know yet. My friend Larry Holter. What's up?
What's up? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's you're not in the money, so hey, it's I don't even know why you're still paying attention, but I guess you kind of have to.
Well, come on,
the commish.
It's not just that. I mean, I find pride. I take pride. First of all, the number one thing I have going on, not to get off on a stupid tangent no one gives a rat's ass about, but in the 21 seasons that I have been in this fantasy baseball league, I take pride in saying that I have never finished last. I'm in 9th out of 10. My good friend Mike Prange is bringing up the rear, and as long as I finish ahead of him, I was right in the world. So you gotta try that.
Well, I've made trades with both of you to get better while you guys prepared for next year. So hopefully, y'all two can battle it out.
Yeah, I won 2 in a row a couple years ago. It is what it is. I've won 5 total. It is, got to do.
I've won 0.
Yeah. 0. Well, one of these days, you're gonna win. Let's see what we got here going on. Kyle, yes, they spent a lot of time in New York, in the financial world of New York. Seriously, that's not a joke. Kyle's saying now he thinks I'm making fun. I'm not making fun. They really did. Rock, I don't think we win one game without Kamara on this team. Oh, come on, man. Oh, okay. He asterisked it. You don't win 8 games without Kamara. I don't think they win 8 games with Kamara. Not that I'm supposed to give spoiler alerts. That's a whole nother world. Lowry, let us start off this morning by talking about the New Orleans Saints and their preseason opener against the Arizona Cardinals. You see all the pertinent info on the right-hand side of the screen. Not that anyone cares if you bet in preseason. As someone who worked for bet.nola.com for, 3 years now, you don't do it. You're crazy. You're silly. It's dumb. Unless you want to bet an under, because unders tend to hit more often in preseason than anything else. The Cardinals are a 1-point favorite. Who cares? Game is Saturday at 7 p.m. on Fox 8. What has always been, when you were covering the team on a regular basis and you spent over a decade in training camps, that sounded bad. But anyway, you know what I mean. And you finally got to the first preseason game. Was it like, okay, finally something different?
Yeah, and what I look at primarily, because you don't get a total great glimpse at interior play on either side of the ball. Sure, they're in pads, some practices, but sometimes they're not. I look at that more than anything else, because in practices, you can get a sense of quarterback play. You can get a sense of skill positions on offense, corners on defense. But I like to zero in on offensive line play, defensive line play within preseason games, just to get a sense of where they are. And for the Saints, I think you and me would both agree they've got question marks on both of those fronts. So I will be curious to see how really the offensive line reacts. We know Clint Kubiak, first time in any kind of game action with the Saints, and yet we're still dealing with the same things that he came in last year. They had problems with it last year. We have question marks with it this year with the offensive line.
No doubt about it. By the way, Gabe reminds me, I'm not telling you not. If you want to go bet on preseason, that's your business. And if you do, he has a tips article on bet.nola.com. So there you go. I mean, again, if you want to, that's your business. I'm not going to tell you not to. We see Rod Walker wrote this morning. Well, he probably wrote it yesterday, but it came out this morning. His 4 big things on what to look for in this first preseason game, and one of the things is what you touched on, what you talked about, and that offensive line, both fronts. He's got 2 of the things that his 4 things to watch are things you mentioned: Chase Young and Trevor Penning. So I'll start with Trevor Penning. Look, everything I've been reading, again, I'm not at practice. I'm not in Irvine, California. I'm in Mandeville, Louisiana. But I will tell you that everything I've read saying that Trevor Penning is having an awful camp. I don't know why anyone should be surprised. So we'll see how he does against someone other than Chase Young, I guess.
It's not like Arizona's probably going to put out there anyone of similar quality to say
Right.
Chase Young. It's not, even with their starters, they don't possess this overwhelming pass rush, but obviously other teams that they face in the regular season will. And so it doesn't matter if Penning's having an amazing camp, if he's having a terrible camp. He is LT1 right now.
Not Lawrence Taylor.
No. If you imagine him going up against Lawrence Taylor, he'd be like a spinning top.
Oh man,
it would be brutal. But still, you were looking
like even today at 60-year-old Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, you're still looking at him regardless. I mean, there's all eyes are going to be on him, and Derek Carr's not going to play, and so this is going to be rookie quarterbacks having a mediocre at best left tackle protecting them. So you want to see how all of it kind of interchanges. If one can help the other, I don't know. I don't know what my expectations are when I watch this game on Saturday, but I'm going to be watching specifically that spot, no question.
Hakeem Batiste. We are in trouble in the O-line, especially at right tackle. Entering year 3, this dude hasn't progressed even with the new staff. Now, look, in his defense, what you see in training camp isn't what you always see in a game situation, so maybe it'll be better. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because this time of year, we're all keeping it positive, brother.
We are?
Just saying. Well, not all of us. Maybe not all of us, but Kyle says Chase Young, maybe he can make Penning better. We can hope. But see, that's kind of my point. That leads into, I get to Chase Young in a second. Kind of gets into what I was talking about before you came on the air. You're talking about Justin Simmons, and I get why you would want him and how he can help you. But that's not even close to the biggest need on this football team. Why wouldn't you spend whatever little money you have to either A, get Kamara's deal done, get him signed through next year, and move on and not have this thing linger into the regular season? And maybe it won't. And maybe they're waiting to sign the Kamara deal. Maybe they have it almost ready and they're waiting to see if they're going to get Simmons. I don't know. But why wouldn't you do either that or both and go get a offensive lineman, a tackle that there's no question. And if they prove me wrong, great. But I think the chances are less than 10%. Why wouldn't they just go spend this money on a tackle?
What tackle?
I mean, again,
that's my question.
Bakhtiari's still out there, and there actually aren't there a couple other guys that are out there, from what I understand. Not only that, there's going to be somebody cut in training camp that's better than what you have at right tackle right now. There is zero question about that. And so
you might have to wait until then, but still, okay, you can mention Bakhtiari. He's got to want to come actually play for the Saints. I don't think that's a thing that a lot of people give.
I don't deny that.
When that gets brought up, I mean, he could say thanks, but no thanks, and see what a lot of people see is just a mediocre team. Why is he gonna do that? So I think that's part of it. And I'm sure the Saints are not good, close-minded. They're not saying, oh my gosh, it's Trevor Penning or bust for 17 games. I mean, you can't do that. So this is probably a litmus test period. And I'm sure they're scouring everywhere, but I mean, it's the whole thing. If you don't have him on the roster, if he's not on a roster, it's really rare that you find anybody that's not on a roster right now that you're going to say, oh, come in and just be kind of a miracle worker. The only position I actually see in the NFL where I think there are viable starters, maybe I'll say two positions. There are viable starters and contributors that are still kind of floating in free agency. They're both on the defensive side of the ball. I think there are actually maybe one or two viable defensive ends that you could say, all right, come in and rush the passer. But at cornerback, there are actually viable people that I feel like that teams are trying to test out to see if their younger cornerbacks can play. Then they can say, oh, I'll go sign Stephon Gilmore, somebody like that. And so, and that's the Saints don't need that. So it's harder to do that at tackle. I just don't see the names out there that would.
Okay, well, according to one site that I don't, looked up a couple of them, they all seem to still be free agents, and at least the top of this list for sure are names that would help the Saints. Maybe they're a little bit older, but they're veterans. I don't think it takes much to get better. Donovan Smith, DJ Humphries. I think both of those guys are better than what you have. Why
Humphries could be. Donovan Smith is a turnstile. We've seen it for years. Like Cam Jordan abused him in Tampa. Abused him.
But okay, you say abused. I'm not saying that I'm saying it's not going to take much to get better than what
Humphries. I feel like, and now that you're saying that, because I've done. I'm doing some O-line research right now to have league-wide looks. I just finished up cornerbacks. That's up at The Athletic. And my next thing I'm diving in right now is offensive lineman. And Humphries is someone that actually could help. But again, and a former Arizona Cardinal, a longtime starter. But, I do think, though, that the Saints, and I kind of mentioned this kind of philosophy, and it had to do with corners. You could see, hey, all right, let's see what we got with the younger guy. We've got a couple of veteran guys. If I were the Saints, I would take a look more at Humphries. You've seen Donovan Smith for years. Like you've seen it for years. So I feel like Humphries could be a better option.
I hear you. And I know that you were talking about it, and I understand that certainly that could be a part of all this that Bakhtiari just said. Maybe they have reached out to him. Maybe says, you know what? I don't want to come there. You're going to go 7-10 this year, and I don't want to play there. So I get that. So that is a possibility. By the way, I don't say this enough. I really don't. I mean this. Go check out all of Larry's works at The Athletic. NFL covers the entire NFL, not just the Saints any longer, if you don't know this. And The Athletic puts together, I use The Athletic all the time. So I don't say that enough. I should. But there you go. Check out Larry at Larry Holder, also on X if you're listening to the pod and can't see the screen right now. Okay, I'm going to move on from that because, look, we could sit here and have a whole show on Trevor Penning and kind of have before. So I don't want to do that again today. So my opinion is clear on Justin Simmons and why I think Justin Simmons is a phenomenal player. He's 30 years old. He's going to probably about to head to the backside of his career. How much do you want to spend? It's probably just a 1-year contract, but I just think the Saints have other pressing needs that they can fill. But they supposedly know better than I. I think one of the things we're going to see on Rod Walker's list here, the debut of Clint Kubiak, that's one of his things to me. I don't think that really matters much to preseason. They're going to be super vanilla. But one thing I think will be key, and I know you'll be watching this for this as well, Larry, is the number 2 quarterback battle, which most years doesn't matter. Okay. And most years, it's not even talked about all that much. But this year, clearly there's buzz over Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, kind of the incumbent who has the leg up. I think it's his job to lose, whether he loses it or not, I don't know. But I think we can maybe read some tea leaves into how the Saints are feeling by seeing not necessarily the order these guys play, but maybe how much they play.
Well, I would assume each would play a half, right? So, you're not playing Carr, at least today. At least on Saturday. So they'll probably flip-flop it next week, depending on how it goes. But yeah, I do think that, and for me, it's not, all right, who's number 2? It's basically saying, okay, can you see promise from maybe one of these guys to be your number 1 at some point? That's for me, I'm not in that realm all the time anymore, but I squarely look at the Saints as a candidate for a new quarterback next year. Like if this flounders, then you're looking at everything. Carr's would be out the door, and you'd be looking at the draft or the two guys you got. Like if you love Spencer Rattler and what he's doing, and I've said this again and again on this pod, he was a second-round graded guy for us at The Athletic, and basically put him in the same realm in that sense as Will Levis, put him in the same realm in terms of ranking-wise where we had Rattler ranked second-round grade. We had Michael Penix as a second-round guy. We had Bo Nix as a second-round guy. So that's where we had Rattler. So do you think that maybe he could be your future guy? I'm willing to bet that the Saints are looking and hoping that he could be that guy, because then you don't have to invest in a first-round pick. But again, this is where I'm looking at now, because when we get into the regular season, you probably don't want to see either one of these guys, because that would mean Carr's hurt or Carr's playing bad. Carr still gives you your best chance to win. There's no doubt about that for me right now. But you're looking, this is future ground time to see where these guys can stack up.
Said it multiple times. My opinion hasn't changed. If you see either one of these guys start more than 2 games in the regular season, for whatever the reason may be, it doesn't make a difference why, how, or what. It means this is a dumpster fire of a season, and next year ain't going to be much better. That's my bet, because again, doesn't matter if it's because Derek Carr got hurt. The only chance Derek Carr gets just flat out benched is if the Saints start like 2-9 and they have nothing to lose, and maybe DA's gone already and Clint Kubiak says, "What the hell? I don't care." That's the only way you're going to see either one of these guys start a game.
Brock Purdy is a rarity. That's
That's just a rarity.
That doesn't happen hardly ever.
That's just a rarity. He is the only one of projected starting quarterbacks of the 32 teams, of 32 projected starting quarterbacks. Brock Purdy is the only one who was drafted later than the 4th round. So that gives you, and you could say Spencer Rattler is different. Whatever. He's not different. I mean, I don't care. I understand your grade, but actual fact is he was drafted in the 5th round, which is after the 4th round. I'm not limited. Shaw math skills can figure that out. And it tells me what his odds are. I'm not saying they're 1 in 32 that'll ever be a starting quarterback, but I don't think they're much higher than 2 in 32, which is 1 in 16. I just don't think they're that much higher. I just don't. So I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just telling you what facts are and what realistic. What
Here's
they are
the thing.
realistic.
If you're a Saints fan, hope he does well.
Of course. 100%. I hope they both do well.
And makes this a conversation. I actually think that that would be good for this.
100%.
It might motivate Carr, but it also might give you a sense that, all right, maybe this kid could be your future. So, like, you want this guy to play real well. Like, he needs hope he's, like, insane, and that you're thinking, man, maybe the Saints should start this guy.
I agree wholeheartedly. Everyone should. If you're a Saints fan, if you're a Falcons fan, you hope they both suck. But if you're a Saints fan, you want them to do well. You want DA to do well. You want Derek Carr to do well. You don't want to see them in the regular season. Plus, the Saints are winning 35-7, and you're like, oh, put in Hainer, put in Rattler, whatever. That's the only way you want to see him. All right, we're getting a little long here. I do want to. There are a couple other things that I found interesting, and one is this. Look, this injury list is getting to a point where it's a big deal. I mean, 5 wide receivers of the 11 on the roster missed practice Thursday, which means you only have 6 healthy on the roster, which means you're going to have starters play. I mean, Olave's, you're not going to see him a whole ton, and I would guess you wouldn't see Shaheed all that much. Well, he's on the injury list anyway. So, but here's the players that are on the injury list total. Ugo Amadi's got a groin injury. Equanimous St. Brown, hamstring. Stanley Morgan, wide receiver, hip. Bob Means, wide receiver, shin. Pete Winter, who's just signed an extension, 3 years, $25 million. That'll be the last thing we talk about before we move on our previews. Rashid Shaheed, hamstring. Marshawn Lattimore, hip. Kendra Miller, still hamstring. Paulson Adebo, groin. Demario Davis, hamstring. Nick Saldivari, calf. Trajan Jeffcoat. Mason Tipton, another wide receiver. Isaiah Stahlberg, undisclosed injury, the dreaded undisclosed injury. That is a long list for this point of camp.
Well, and it's always the buzzy thing. Oh, well, you're going out to a warm, cooler climate.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to prevent injuries. Look, injuries happen.
Right.
I don't care what climate you're in. It's just, I just think it's a silly silly thing to even ever point out. I never buy it. It's just things happen. Like people get hurt, but still, you're at the point of a camp where you're practicing a bunch. You could get banged up. I'm not really worried about it. Like if we get to week 1 and you got all of your receiving cores hurt, okay, I don't care. Look, go play a corner at wide receiver this preseason game. It really doesn't bother me. Like I said, like as you mentioned, I've done this long enough. It's preseason, whatever. Someone might be like, "Oh, my arm, Rodney Dangerfield. Oh, I want to take a week off and just get out of training camp." I mean, that's look, I wouldn't put it past anybody. There are people who don't sign on purpose to say skip mini camp and do this. Like, so it's okay. I get it, and so it's. I don't need to see Olave play. I don't need to see.
I don't either. Well, hence how stupid preseason is.
Make him take all the snaps. I don't care.
Preseason is so stupid. It makes no sense. But it does make me want. I've been every now and then, like the last couple of weeks. I don't know why, but I've been feeling the urge to sing a song that comes to my head. And only
sing on this pod.
Only the old people will understand. It don't matter to me. Bread. Do y'all even know who David Gates and Bread is? Probably not. Go Google it.
I don't even know that song.
You don't?
I don't think I do.
It don't matter to me.
What genre is it?
Probably late 60s, early 70s.
Oh, come on.
Bread. You don't know Bread? David Gates? You don't know?
Man, that's something.
God, I'm getting old. Sigh. All right. Last thing I want to talk about Saints-wise. I want to get your opinion on the contract extension of Pete Werner, 3 years, $25 million. I think he's earned it. I do find it interesting. You bring in Willie Gay, for a 1 year contract and then prove its worth. Demario Davis is getting older. I think he's 36 this year. So I like the Pete Werner signing. I'm just apprehensive about any contract right now that's longer than 2 years. That's just me.
Well, any contract is not really the actual length anyway.
That's true. You got a point.
Always pull a ripcord at any point. But
you got a point.
It's not like you broke the bank, and that's probably going to be the going rate for him. That's fine. And so the signing's fine. It's not this world-beating thing. The problem.
It's fine.
The problem is
we said this the other day. Whenever someone says it's fine, like if your boss calls you,
I remember. Oh man, this is the greatest. I think it was the cover of the Saints program for a game, and it was Greg Robertson. And I mean, I think that the headline was "Solid Contributor," and he just says, "Man, solid's the worst. Like if you're solid,
fine is the worst.
You're just there, and it's fine." But look, this is
Larry. If you go in your,
it's going to sound really bad, but
wait, hold on. If you go into your yearly review, okay. And your editor sits down with you and you say, well, how do you think I'm doing? And that editor, and he or she says, you're doing fine. How is that going to make you? Exactly.
That's not good enough. Solid. No, solid,
up
to par, up to standard. No, you don't want that. And so at least they're giving him more money. So they feel like, all right, maybe you could be a little better, but look, I'm going to be really honest with you. And this is going to sound like Derry Downer here.
Oh boy.
I'm not excited about any contract extension that the Saints would give to any current player on this roster.
I agree.
Zero.
100% agree. That's why I'm saying.
Badly.
Like normally
it used to be a ton. Like, oh my gosh,
I know.
They got all these extensions. Zero.
In a normal situation, I would say, you know what? And it is. That's about the going rate for someone like Pete Werner. In fact, if anything, it might be a deal. It might be a deal. I think he's a solid. I don't mean it that sorry. Line solid as a rock. Look, he's good signing. Yeah, but I've been with you. I can't think of a single player on this roster that I would say let's lock up for the next 3 years.
None.
Because you may have to, like, when I say blow
maybe
up,
Eric McCoy. Like that might.
Yeah, okay. All right, there you go. There's one. I agree. Because no matter what happens in the future, Eric McCoy should be a part of it.
You need a good center, and he's a good center.
Maybe Carl Granderson?
But you already did, and I thought that was fine.
Yeah, fine.
I wouldn't be excited about. I could go through every
one of the cornerbacks.
I could go
Adebo or Taylor. I don't.
Adebo could be another.
This could be a whole show. we could like give them rankings on like, but look, man, when you're in a, this is the most, and yeah, Olave, there you go, Olave,
maybe. Look, we've had this debate before. I've compared Olave to Brandon Cooks, and it's like, I mean, you're not paying him number one money. It's like Brandon Ayuk. All right, debate. Who would you rather pay, Olave or Brandon Ayuk?
That's a tough one.
I would probably. We don't have an answer shows they're basically on the same plane. 49ers aren't ready to go pay Ayuk the bank.
Yeah, but they already have like they know that I think their Super Bowl window. I know this sounds weird. They obviously just made the Super Bowl, and even though they have a young quarterback, I'm not sure that their Super Bowl window is super long.
It might be this year because after
I think they're going to go back to being mediocre a little bit.
Paid.
Yeah.
Well, his agent's going to be looking for Purdy
for sure
after this year.
I agree. So anyway, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather Olave, to be honest, because I know that Olave at least is playing as wide receiver one, did last year and will this year. I'm not going to get in the whole debate.
But the 49ers at least have a backup plan because they drafted Ricky Pearsall, and that's going to replace either Debo or Ayuk.
Oh, we'll talk more about San Francisco 49ers in 2 weeks. Come on, you getting ahead.
I'm just saying, like, that's the thing. At least Olave would have an advantage because there's no better receiver on the team. So he does have an advantage. He actually has negotiating power there.
Yeah, Alontae Taylor, he's in the same boat. But I don't know. There's nobody that threw Eric McCoy. I agree. I think that's the only one that I would be like, okay, yeah, if you got a chance on him, whatever. Yeah. All right, let's get to the previews and predictions part of this process. Might want to speed it up a little bit. That's my own bad. It is what it is. But this is the part of the show before we get to the predictions where I show you what I predicted last year.
This ought to be good.
And then show you what actually happened. And this is definitely one, I'll give you a spoiler alert, where I make a complete and utter ass of myself. Let's take a look. What did I predict?
You mean you didn't buy the Texans? Come on.
I predicted, look, I didn't predict them to be last, but what's worse than predicting them to be last is I predicted the Colts to be 3-14. They finished 9-8. I predicted the Texans to finish 5-12 and said CJ Stroud, what a joke. I don't think I exactly said what a joke, but Gabe Henderson was there, so it's not like I can skirt it. I'm sure there's video out there somewhere. But I said that, anyway, let's move on. I said the Titans would go 9-8. They went 6-11. I said the Jaguars would win the division at 11-6. That was the only one where I was even kind of close, and I wasn't even really close with that. In other words, I stunk up the joint. But I'm sure you didn't have the Texans winning the division last year either.
No. I'm sure I had the Jaguars winning the division because they were coming off of a good run, and you would think they were only getting better. And that obviously they regressed. I mean, there's no doubt that they regressed, and there's actually question marks about Trevor Lawrence. Like he was the undisputed champ quarterback of the AFC South a year ago, and now I bet you people might even say he's not one. Maybe he's not even two because people might. I'm just saying people might project Anthony Richardson.
Give me a break.
I'm not that person. I'm just telling you there's Anthony Richardson hype.
Anyone who thinks, and this includes you, Gabe Henderson, anyone who thinks that Anthony Richardson is better than Trevor Lawrence should call some kind of hotline and put down the crack pipe. Okay. And you can cut this piece out, Gabe, and we can play it back next year so I can play it in this segment next year when I'm wrong. Let's move on. And because I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we are going to preview each division and each team and take about 3-4 minutes on each team. And I want to start with the Texans. I'm going in alphabetical order by city, not by what order they finished last year or what order we're predicting. And if you look at these numbers, this team, as well as they did last year, if you look at these numbers, they basically have identical numbers to the New Orleans Saints. That may be blasphemy if you want to say whatever, but their offensive ranking is 12th. The Saints were, I think, 11th. I have to look it up. Their overall defensive ranking was 14th. The Saints were 12th. So they finished 10-7 and won the division. They had an easy schedule last year. They had a very easy division, just like the Saints last year. The difference is they took advantage, and C.J. Stroud was flat out awesome.
And Stroud did it against good teams. Like, he didn't just do it against, the bottom feeders. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway for me just for his season. And he just got better. And it was week 2, he really just started showing it. It's like he came in and was just kind of gangbusters. And when you look offensively, the moves that they made in the offseason, they make the bigger headlines than the ones that they made on defense. I mean, they brought in Stephon Diggs, who I don't need. That's the thing. They made a move with Diggs. I don't even know if they need him.
They didn't.
He regressed. Like, Buffalo certainly went away from him. And so I'm wondering how much he rocks the boat there. But could he still be a good player for them? Sure. Joe Mixon, I mean, the Bengals were ready to move on from him. They went and got him to improve their run game.
He's already banged up.
Right. How much does Joe Mixon have left in the tank? I don't know. So I think you've got 2 names that people are super familiar with because we know fantasy football, big fantasy names for forever. But how much can they actually contribute? I'll be curious to see. So I think for me, I look more along the lines of what they added on defense, and I think that makes them a better team. They basically swapped Danielle Hunter, got him, and let the younger Jonathan Grenard go to the Vikings. I mean, it wasn't a trade; it was free agency. So I think they upgraded theirs. And look, this is it. Like, they're doing the 49ers blueprint, all in on a rookie quarterback. Go get huge pieces. Like I mentioned, veteran guys. Danielle Hunter's a huge piece. They paid him a ton, but they got him. I think that's an upgrade at defensive end. I thought Danico Autry, he's going to be a good addition. The fact that he's not going to play for the first 6 games, that's a big blow. But if you look at the schedule, they could probably manage it. But still, they got better defensively. And Derek Stingley Jr. was one of the best corners last year. He wasn't on the field all the time. He got a little banged up, but he was one of the best corners last year. He didn't get near the net recognition. We know him because of the LSU ties, but he's not. He should be up there with Sauce Gardner. Like, he had a better season than him. He had one of the best seasons in the NFL. So I feel like defensively, that goes right into D'Amico Ryans' hands. Like, that, the fact that he can mold that, and the offense is kind of budding. I think that would make them, to me, a better team, that their defense has gotten better.
Yeah, and look, but on the other side, you can argue that their skill players, the ones that you talked about, are good enough, but you could argue, yes, they have the best talent of skill players, a set of skill players in the NFL, or certainly one of the top 3. C.J. Stroud, to me, is unquestionably a top 8 quarterback, maybe even a little higher than that. But you go down there the wide receiver list, it's one that people drool over. You talk about Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Noah Brown. John Mechie right now is their number 6. He'd be number 2 or 3 for a lot of teams. I mean, tight end, Dalton Schultz, even Brevin Jordan contributes. So, but the problem I have with this team is, and I'm not giving you my pick, I'm not even alluding to what I might pick, but I like Laramie Tunsil, but he's getting older. Their offensive line, Larry, I don't know if it's good enough to hold up to give them the time and get their running game going. We saw they were 22nd in rushing last year. I'm not sure Joe Mixon helps that much.
I'm not sure he does either. And so, yeah, that's a question there. When I'm mentioning the offensive guys get the headlines because it's fantasy football, it's Mixon, it's Diggs, the names for forever. But both are declining players, like they are. And so, but that's something where, all right, we feel like maybe we can get this thing going. And it's like how, Mixon's a declining player. I know he didn't have Burrow all last year, but no, he's a declining running back. I mean, there's no question. The numbers are there. And Diggs, I mean, there's a reason why Buffalo's moving on from him. And and they have a young, good receiving core, not totally proven. Maybe that helps. So look, I just think that they're still good, but I think I'm kind of with you within this entire division. Are they good enough to get past some of these other teams in the AFC? I mean, that's going to be more on man. Stroud's going to have to be a hero.
Yeah, for sure.
Their defense is good. It's better, but it's not great. And so it's going to have to be on, man, can CJ Stroud really be that hero guy?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I see these numbers, and when I'm trying to project this team going forward, Gabe thinks the offensive line's be better. Look, they're every
I don't think it's a bad O-line. I think it's
every
fine.
ranking I look at is anywhere from like 20 to 24.
I think they're fine. They're good enough. Like they're
there you go. Fine. They're solid. They're fine.
Rather than not.
They're solid.
It's better than the Saints O-line.
Well, of course, but so is everyone else. The Saints literally have the worst offensive line in football. So, I mean, comparing them to the Saints is kind of silly.
It's close.
All right. Well, look, I want to say, their odds, if you look down there, bottom right, these odds are by DraftKings. You can look around and shop around, and they're about 10 over on the win total. It's actually 9.5, like minus 140, which equals out to 10. But I think some of these other odds are absurd. I'm not 16-1 to win the Super Bowl. Nobody's going to bet that. But you want to go through and look at their schedule. The one thing that I do like about their schedule is it's a little tougher than last year. However, I don't see any like long stretches where they play like teams. I think the toughest stretches are in the middle there. They play at Jets, Lions, at Cowboys, but then they get a break with Titans, and if you want to call the Jaguars a break. I don't like that super late bye week. And then they come back and they got to play Dolphins at Chiefs, and Ravens is super tough as well. And then Bills early on in the season. Bears, how good are they? Packers, I think, are going to be really good. But just give me your overall take. I think that they need to make sure that they don't have any losing streaks, and they'll be okay.
Win a bunch early. You could say they probably, it depends. Probably, I don't know if they're favored for their first 4 games, but I mean those first 4 games are all winnable.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Yeah.
First 4 games are winnable, and 5 of their first 6 are winnable, and they could go beat Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's not infallible. So start off hot and then kind of work your way through it. And if you get some momentum, sure. When you get to Jets, Lions, Cowboys, and then of course later in the season, that's kind of a playoff push, but still, I think that they need to start hot. Like don't stumble out of the gate, and then they kind of fall into that trap of fighting to be 500, mediocre, like win the division 9-8 kind of a deal.
Yeah, they're week 1. They're 1.5-point favorites at the Colts, which I find interesting. And then they're 3.5-point favorites at home against the Bears. I didn't look, but I'm certain they're favored at Minnesota and against the Jaguars. That Bills game will be interesting, but I think they have a good chance to start out 3-1 maybe. And then Bills will see. And again, they should beat the Patriots, Packers. So if they could start 6-2, I like their chances to win 11 and whatever, but we'll see if they do that or not.
They could beat the Jets. They could beat the Cowboys. They
can.
I mean,
I think they can. They can beat anybody.
That's the thing. If CJ Stroud plays incredible, no one's beating him. Like that's
the things that I don't like, and again, why they need to get off. I hate bye weeks in December. I mean, that's absurd that they have to wait that long to get their bye week. And then when they come back, that is easily a stretch where they're going to have super trouble. Dolphins at Chiefs against the Ravens. That is a tough stretch to maneuver before you finish against the lowly Titans, but we'll get to them in a minute. All right, let's move on to the Colts. An interesting team, and I'm not really 100% sure what to make of them. Shane Steichen, I thought, did an outstanding job in his first go-around there, especially with the fact of, look, I'm no Anthony Richardson fan. I've made that clear. I don't think he's going to be a legitimate NFL quarterback. I just don't. But that being said, I thought he played well in the little time that he did in the first half. Gardner Minshew came up and did a good job. But really, again, you look at numbers, 15th on offense and 24th on defense, but yet still they found some kind of way to win 9 games. They just missed the playoffs. And I don't know how they did it, to be honest.
Yeah, especially with Minshew. Like, how's it? He's your quarterback, and they just. Yeah. I mean, I think that just goes to show you that Shane Steichen's he could certainly coach. And guess where they missed him? In Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I think that's certainly a kudos to him. And you look at this team, and I'm not going to close the door on Anthony Richardson and say he's not going to be a legitimate NFL quarterback. I'm not doing that, but I do think that there's still the question marks. I don't know if he's still if he's an accurate passer in the NFL. He wasn't in college. We didn't see him long enough last year.
That's my biggest problem.
So we don't know. Like he's essentially a rookie. We don't know. So
yeah, but you don't go from throwing 55% in the SEC to suddenly throwing 63%. Maybe you don't have to, but that's the biggest problem I have with him.
The only person that I can really recall where they weren't super accurate in college, and then they actually got better accuracy-wise at points in the NFL is Josh Allen. And Allen and Richardson are very similar guys. Is Richardson able to do that? We'll see. Of course, Allen has lapses.
Josh Allen's bigger than Anthony Richardson.
Well, they're both pretty big guys. I mean, they're both physically gifted. Like, they are very similar. Can Anthony Richardson do that? And the thing is, I
don't love Josh Allen. I gotta say, and he's been better than I thought he would be, but he has his moments as well. So I'm not a.
Oh, I get you. Yeah, that's why they've only gotten as far as they've gotten. I mean, and then
exactly.
But at least for Richardson, I like their offensive line. That's going to help him. Skill position wise, look, Josh Downs, I know he just got a high ankle injury, but if he should be healthy by week 1. If not, he'd be back week 2, week 3. But yeah, you team Pittman and Downs together, I think they're a good combo at wide receiver. And Jonathan Taylor, you get him going behind this O-line, and you mix and match. Like, I feel like that they're maybe a bigger threat than maybe people might give them credit for. I don't think they're one of the best teams in the AFC, but I do think that they're a bigger threat than people might expect.
You know, one thing that is the Colts are kind of almost opposite of the Texans in the fact that, of course, you got Jonathan Taylor. They have a great running game, the Colts, even though they only finished 10th last year, which it's not terrible. But, you know, Anthony Richardson was gone. We don't know what he's going to be, but their wide receiving core is just the opposite. They're not flashy. They don't, you know, Michael Pittman's the only really big name on that team. The difference is their offensive line is outstanding.
Yes.
You know, you talk about Raymond and you talk about Braden Smith. They have two great bookends, in my opinion.
Kelly is a tremendous.
Quentin Kelly is, So
Quentin Nelson's is considered one of the best guards in the last since he's been drafted.
Right.
They are in really good shape offensive line wise. That can really kind of help maneuver, and it's probably one of the reasons why they were able to actually win a bunch of games with Minshew back there and kind of
probably
freewheeling, because that O-line can play. There's no doubt.
Well, we'll see what they can do this year. Their over-under wins total is 8.5. Basically, Vegas thinks they're pretty much going to be the same team that they were last year. You're not going to bet on them to win the Super Bowl or the conference title. However, I'm not saying they're going to win the division title. No spoiler alerts yet. But that plus 310, 3.1, which is basically the same number as the Saints have, I like the Colts' chances to win the AFC South better than I like the Saints' chances to win the NFC South. And I think the Saints might be about it. That's a decent number.
Colts defense, I mean, we don't have to spend much time. They have really no notable names. They just
Quiddy Pay.
There are no notable names. They're just
their defense is pretty rough. They were 24th last year. I don't see them being better than that this year, which is obviously a problem against. And you look at the first 3 teams they play, all have really good offenses, in my opinion. Texans, Packers, Bears. So that could be an issue. But they have parts of the schedule that they're going to navigate. And the way they finish, again, they had that same kind of bye week, which stinks. But however, that being said, after they play the Lions on November 24th, if they can just tread water and be even by November 24th, they finish with Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, and Jaguars. All games they can win. Interesting.
If they, like you said, if they kind of just go in there 5-5, 6-6, and then get hot at the end. I mean, that it's set up for them to make a run.
Sure. We'll see what we think when we get to the predictions part. Moving on to the next team, alphabetically by city. We're not giving you any spoilers on who we're going to pick here. Jacksonville Jaguars with Coach Doug Peterson again and Trevor Lawrence again. And their rankings last year, mediocre. They were mediocre. You talk about them. Sure, they have a decent receiving core. You got Brian Thomas from LSU, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, big whoop. I'm just not sold on. They give Trevor Lawrence this giant, huge contract, and I don't get it. I mean, to me, you want to talk about someone that was overpaid. You may think you have to, but I don't think you have to. I don't think he's worth that money, and I think that this team, maybe not this year, but I think this team is close to going to be making a slide in the wrong direction.
Well, they're already starting to slide in the wrong direction. You went from winning a playoff game, that dramatic win against the Chargers, and now they kind of slipped back. And so, I mean, look, Trevor Lawrence was going to get paid that money. I mean, it doesn't matter what you say. I mean, you could question that. You could question Justin Herbert getting paid all that money. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has done more than Herbert has. Like, so you could say talent-wise, Herbert looks better and you'd rather have him. But hey, Lawrence beat him and they've gotten further in the playoffs. Like, so it doesn't matter. Tua is going to get paid. Like, everybody's getting paid. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a viable quarterback, you're getting paid. So it's just whichever one you got, you're lucky you have. Like, and Trevor Lawrence, everybody thought he's going to be this kind of generational guy. I mean, I don't think he is. So
he's not.
But you got it. But that's the going rate. Derek Carr. It's the going rate. Like, that's just what it is.
If you want to wallow in the land of 9th in rushing, 9th in passing, and have a 13th ranked overall offense, which is, I think, what you're going to do. Is their defense any better? I don't know. I love Josh Hines-Allen, but tell me somebody else on this defense that you really love. Maybe Devin Lloyd. I don't know. Who else do you really love on this defense?
Trevon Walker took a big step, actually, from year 1 to year 2.
Okay.
No one really talks about him because they talk about
You're right.
Aiden Hutchinson. Walker took a big step.
That's right.
So if there's anybody else, it's him. Like, and he's playing with Hines-Allen. Like I said, Walker's like hidden. Like, he's the number 1 overall pick. He's hidden. He didn't play well his first year. Last year he played much better. So if they can get that going, that's good. But speaking of somebody I think they just overpaid. I mean, they just gave Tyson Campbell the richest contract in NFL history for a corner who never made a Pro Bowl. That is an overpay for me. Like, so that's so I'm not. If you want to talk about overpaying someone on that roster, it's him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you, I know everybody thinks Dennis Allen's going to be the first one on the super hot seat. I don't think anything's going to happen to Dennis Allen this year, in my opinion, but I think Doug Peterson's going to be, his ass is going to be on fire around Halloween. I'm just saying. And the reason why, as we kind of move on here, over under win total 8.5, same as the Colts, their odds to win the division are a little bit lower, which means Vegas thinks they have a better chance to win the division, or at least bettors do. At Super Bowl odds, you should have the app take removed from your phone if you bet on the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl, period. If you put $1 on it, you should have the app removed from your phone and call the hotline. But here's this schedule. The Saints' brutal beginning has nothing on what the Jags have to do. They have to start out at Miami, which great. You don't have to go too far. That's the good news. You're home for the Browns, at the Bills, at the Texans, home for the Colts. Then you're going to Chicago. You're going to London for 2 games in London again. And then you come home for the Packers and at the Eagles before you get a mini break against the Vikings and at the Lions. So before Thanksgiving, the entire run before Thanksgiving to me is, except for the Patriots, is absolutely brutal. And you have a 4 out of 5 week stretch where you're away from home, and 5 out of 7. To me, that's just, first of all, it's unfair. Almost. I don't care one rat's ass about the Jaguars, but this schedule is insane. They could easily be like 2-8.
Well, the Jaguars put themselves in that position by playing all these international games, so that's part of it. But still, it's a team that, regardless of the schedule, I mean, I've seen them beat good teams and lose the bad teams.
And lose the crappy ones. You're
so
right.
It's the fact that Lawrence has gotten paid. All the eyes are going to be on him. They would be on him anyway, but still, that's look, Lawrence is going to outlast Doug Peterson. Like, if they flounder,
there's no question.
Doug Peterson will be gone. I think that if they finish 3rd in the division, I think there's changes going on there.
If you put odds for if there's one coach that's going to get fired in this division, there's almost no question that Doug Peterson is at the top of that list, because, well, first of all, you got two second-year coaches and a rookie head coach, so they're probably not going to get fired unless just ridiculousness happens. But anyway, we move on before we get to our predictions. Tennessee Titans time. We don't need to spend much time on this team. They were bad last year. They were 6-11. They got a new coach in Brian Callahan. Whoop-de-doo. Will Levis, in my opinion, and I'm sure you think more higher of Will Levis than I do because I think he's not good. I'm just going to leave it at that. I love Tajay Spears. Nice signing with Tony Pollard. Can he stay healthy? And they have decent receivers, except DeAndre Hopkins is always hurt and he's getting old. But this offensive line is atrocious, and their defense is just shy of atrocious. They're not good.
They improved at center with Lloyd Cushenberry. Come on, LSU fame. He was one of the better centers last year. Can we do that? Calvin Ridley.
You're looking for bright spots? Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm looking for bright spots, but I'm with you. I don't know if I buy Will Levis. I mean, there's a reason why they got Mason Rudolph. Let's be honest. I mean, that's he went out and won games last year, got the Steelers to the playoffs. That's why they got him because they're not totally bought in.
Well, they're the ones that drafted Will Levis in the end of the first round. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so when you look at it in that sense, like, yeah, I mean, this team, they're not very good. They tried to go out and improve at cornerback. Look, they got L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
They got Chidobe Awuzie, who's gotten hurt. They just got Quandre Diggs. So they're trying, but I just don't think that.
Why would L'Jarius Sneed sign there?
Well, I think wasn't he traded? Did
he get traded?
Yeah,
but
so I don't think that's
okay.
I mean, he had to agree to a deal, but
but he's a veteran that would have to. Yeah,
but he also wanted to get paid, and I think the Chiefs had to move on, and you can't pay everybody, so that's kind of a deal. And this is where they ended up.
Speaking of moving on, their over/under win is 6.5. I don't care if I give a spoiler, so we're about to give our predictions. I think the under 6.5 on this team is one of the top 6 or 7 over/under values in all the NFL. I don't think they have a shot of winning 7 games. I think they have almost zero shot at winning 7 games. You go through the schedule if they want real quickly, but at Bears, Jets, Packers, at Dolphins, that's 0-4 if there ever was one before the bye week. Then it doesn't get easier. Colts, at Bills, at Lions. They could be 0-7. It would not surprise me at all. And here you go, Gabe. You want to look up who's going to have the worst record in the NFL? I kind of been teasing at it. There you go. That's my team for worst record in the NFL. I think it's going to be the Titans. But before we get to our predictions real quick, Larry Holder, let me tell you a bit more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or privately owned business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company. If you decide to proceed, our native New Orleanian experts, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world and maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. You never need to worry about which starters will play at Evangeline because it's never preseason for Nick and Ron. They play through their injured hammies and even the dreaded hip flexors. No, they are tough. Oh, and Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what is really important the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Time for the drum roll, our fake drum roll. We don't have one. Our predictions. Larry, do you even know what your predictions are?
I don't remember.
Here you go. We're both picking the Texans.
Well, there you go.
We both have the same record in the Texans, which means they're doomed. They have no chance to finish 10-7. Because we both predict. Look, I think that the Colts, I don't love the Colts schedule, but I don't love any of these teams' schedules, really. I know I was kind of poo-pooing on Anthony Richardson a little bit, but I believe in Shane Steichen. And if anybody can continue the growth of this quarterback from where I was impressed. I got to say, through 4 games, he did way better than I expected. And so can he continue that? I'm not sure, but I do like the Colts' chances. Their defense isn't any good, but I think they're going to get enough out of their coaching to be the second best team in this division, because I think the Jaguars really, like I said, I think the beginning of their decline you said it's begun already. I don't disagree. And that schedule is insane.
I think part of it is I look at it and I'm curious. I don't totally buy Anthony Richardson. Like I just don't. So, and then who's your backup now? Joe Flacco? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So I feel like Jacksonville has done enough. They've made some changes offensively. I think they've gotten better skill position wise, and so I know they lost Ridley, but I still think they made some moves. So I just think that, again, 9-8, that's fine, but I don't buy the Tennessee Titans, and it comes down if Richardson plays well, then the records flip. I mean, that's basically what that is for me.
I don't think that's I think you're right on track. And then we both have the Titans stinking up the joint. You got them 5-12, and Gabe tells me they are plus 800 to potentially have the worst record in the NFL. I think that is a steal. I got them winning 3 games. Look, will they get better eventually? I don't wish any ill will on my friends in Nashville, but I just think that I've been high on them the past few years, but I thought it was a mistake to fire Vrabel. I get they got to make changes, but I'd look at their GM before I'd look at Vrabel. And I think this team is going to have a really hard year before maybe it gets better.
I don't know the solution, really. I mean, it's obviously quarterback. And we're taught, like, you look through this division, there's a reason why the Texans got better because they found a better quarterback. Like, there's a reason why the Jaguars actually improved a little bit last year or two because they got a better quarterback. Like, where is that in Tennessee? It's not there. And we don't know that for the Colts. And so basically, I think in my trust level in quarterbacks is why my division is where it is.
Yeah, well, I think we're pretty much on the same page. I hope I don't embarrass myself with this division like I did last year. I don't know. Maybe the other divisions will look better. And
Will Levis would be the MVP of the league because if the thing was flipped, he would have to be, like, amazing.
Yeah, he ain't going to be amazing. I don't think they're going to be. I think the surprise in this division, if there's any surprise, if there's any chance for a surprise, I think it's that I'm off on the Texans and that they're actually way better than I think they are. That's the only chance for a surprise in this division.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
That is going to wrap it up for us on this Friday, as always. I want to thank Larry Holder for making trades with me in the DRL and, of course, coming in every Friday. Of course, Gabe Henderson behind the scenes. We hope you can join us next Monday. I might have a guest. We've been doing Monday solo, but I might have a guest on Monday. We shall see. And next Friday, Larry, it's the NFC East. That should be fun.
Will CeeDee Lamb or Dak Prescott have a contract by then, or Micah Parsons?
Well, I mean, Jerry Jones says it doesn't matter whether CeeDee Lamb comes to camp or not comes to camp.
Jaden Daniels going to be a superstar after this weekend, and he's the greatest player on the planet for Washington.
Can't wait to talk about them Commandos. It's going to be what a weird division. I don't know. Anyway, reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And you can find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Larry, before we go, how are you going to keep yourself cool and hydrated this weekend?
Not go outside. How about that?
Are you happy the kids are back in school?
Yes, absolutely. Now I got to fight traffic, daily to get one to Brother Martin while the other one's still in school in Algiers. So.
Brother Martin, do your Rummel friends know this?
Absolutely. Sadly. I mean, I live in Algiers. My kid barely knows what Rummel is.
Archbishop Shaw, baby. That's all I can say. We'll talk to you next Friday.
All right. See you then.
And we'll see everybody else on Monday. Zach Fridella, by the way, said a quote-unquote cool front has passed, which means although it's still going to be 95 degrees, you won't be able to fry an egg on the top of anybody's bald heads. Larry and I both have a full head of hair. We don't have to worry about that. The rest of you, we don't know. We're looking forward to seeing that. Till then, have a wonderful and glorious weekend. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.